New World Order, the attack on the family. The family unit has been called the cornerstone of civilization. The concept that the parents are responsible for the upbringing of the children produced during the marriage is the cornerstone of American life. Yet there are efforts in America today to undermine, if not to destroy, the family unit altogether. The desire to destroy the family unit is, as has been briefly alluded to in previous sections of this study, one of the goals of the New Age-Humanist-Communist movement. Marilyn Ferguson, the New Age writer, has written this about the family unit in her book entitled The AQUARIAN Conspiracy. Many sociologists anticipate the evolution of monogamy. Marriage, they say, must be transformed as an institution if it is to survive at all. Let me repeat that. Many sociologists anticipate the evolution of monogamy. Marriage, they say, must be transformed as an institution if it is to survive at all. If monogamy is tied inextricably with the restriction of all sexual expression to the spouse, they said, it will ultimately be monogamy that suffers. The word monogamy has two meanings, both of which are applicable to this study. The word is defined as, number one, the practice or state of being married to only one person at a time. Number two, the practice of marrying only once during life. The dictionary added an appendage to the second definition. It is said that the definition was rare. And indeed it is. The tradition in America that the husband takes himself a wife and then remains faithful to that spouse for the remainder of their life together is a Judeo-Christian one. In other words, it comes from the beliefs and teachings of two religious faiths. Since this is not something that is written instinctively into the hearts of all men, and since man is given free choice, man is free to accept or reject the created institution of the family. The married man does not have to have but one wife and to remain faithful to her. It is only religion that has taught him that the monogamous marriage is the preferable lifestyle. Marilyn Ferguson, a New Age writer, writes further, traditional monogamy contravenes the growing sense that the greatest good of human existence is deep interpersonal relationships, as many of these as is compatible with depth. Younger people are trying to devise and invent a form of marriage appropriate to a new era. As has been previously illustrated, the New Age movement and the Communist movement want to destroy the family. Here, one of the major New Age writers says that it is the young people who are attempting to devise a new marriage institution. The children are being taught to change the marriage contract by those in the New Age movement who have written the textbooks or encouraged a dialogue with the intent of changing their attitudes. Even the definition of a family, meaning a male husband, a female wife, a child, or children, has to be redefined for the New Age. Marilyn Ferguson has told us that this has already taken place. The American Home Economics Association redefined the family in 1979 as two or more persons, meaning two men or two women, as well as one man and one woman who share resources, share responsibility to one another over time. The word is crucial because state law says only family members may take over rent-controlled apartments when the tenant or record dies. The court said that the definition should include adults who show long-term financial and emotional commitment to each other, even if they don't fit the traditional meaning of a family. So, even the definition of a family is under attack. It will have to be changed if the family is to be destroyed. As discussed, there are some who want the family unit to be destroyed altogether. The destruction of the family unit has been the goal of the communists and socialists for over 140 years. Karl Marx, the so-called father of communism, wrote that was the goal of the party: abolition of the family. Even the most radical flare at this infamous proposal of the communists. And Robert Owen, the so-called father of socialism, wrote, "In the new moral world, the irrational names of husband and wife, parent and child will be heard no more. All connection will the result of affection. The child will undoubtedly be the property of the whole community. And the process of the change from the idea that the raising of the child should be the responsibility of the family to that where the child will be raised by the state has already started in some of the communist countries. One of those countries is Cuba. The Cuban people were once basically a religious people with the overwhelming majority belonging to the Catholic Church. But much of that has changed since Fidel Castro, the communist, converted that nation into a communist country." These comments are from a 1988 article in the New American magazine. Heterosexual relations in Cuba are characterized. The abject poverty to which Castro has reduced the island encourages prostitution. The institution of marriage has almost lost its meaning in Cuba. Many persons marry and divorce frequently. The Castro regime has worked to destroy family ties and to break the control of parents over their children. The communists in Cuba have baited children with the offer by setting up live-in schools in the countryside. At these schools, students study half a day and then must work in the fields for the other half. While attendance at these escuelas en el campo, meaning camp schools, is not mandatory, students of junior high and high school levels are encouraged to attend. Even students who do not attend the live-in school must participate yearly in a 6-week work period deep in the rural areas of Cuba. The Castro regime relies heavily upon the use of hundreds of thousands of unpaid school children to work in the fields each year. Under the cover of the educational program, the Castro regime exploits child labor and disrupts parental authority. It is interesting that the leader of Cuba, Fidel Castro, sets the example for infidelity and promiscuity in the marriage union. He has 5 known children born out of wedlock to different mothers. Other communist nations have shown their commitment to the destruction of the family. The communists in China have also been at least partially successful in their drive to destroy the family unit. Those who have studied that nation's past know that the family unit had been the cornerstone of their civilization for centuries. One Chinese citizen who was able to flee his country after the communists took control in 1949 was Reverend Xiaoping Wang, the East Asian director of the Baptist Evangelization Society. He testified before the House Committee on Un-American activities about what happened to the family when communism seized control of China. The family unit is broken up. Husbands and wives are separated in different barracks. The children are taken away from their parents and placed in government-run nurseries. Husbands and wives meet only once a week for 2 hours. They have no other contact. The parents may see their children once a week, and when they see them, they can show no affection toward their children. Names are taken away from children, and they are given numbers. There is no individual identity. Some of the measures to control the family unit in China are rather subtle, while others are not. For instance, any couple wishing to get married must have permission of the Communist Party. Political dissidents, for one, are not permitted to marry. Once any couple is granted that permission, even the decision as to how many children the couple can have in these so-called marriages is a decision of others. One who testified to that fact was another Chinese refugee, Dr. Han Suyen, a native of Peking, who reported in an address to the Swiss Society of Surgeons in 1975 that the residents of each neighborhood in the People's Republic of China meet annually to decide how many babies will be born during the next year and to which families. Priority is given to newly married women without children. As a guarantee against chance or mistakes, contraceptive pills are distributed on each street every morning. This policy of allowing the people to decide just how many children each couple can have in China has led to the practice of infanticide, meaning the intentional killing of babies. The government does not allow any couple to have more than one child, and this edict has caused the following problem. A leading newspaper of southern China has reported that during 1980, 8 female infants were found dead, abandoned in front of the local party headquarters. Most had been suffocated. The article continued by explaining why only female children were being killed by distraught parents. Should a couple's first and only child be a girl, many parents fear that they will be left without an heir or source of support in their declining years. Thus, in certain areas, some parents have begun murdering their firstborn female offspring. Other options are available for those parents who do not have the courage to murder their children. A recent report in March of 1989 reported that some parents have developed another method of allowing their children a way to survive. An estimated 25 million illegals are living in Red China. They are unregistered children who are not immigrants or aliens but native-born Chinese whose parents hide them and keep them unregistered by the government because of its official one-family child policy. The unregistered children cannot attend government schools, receive government aid of any kind, or work for the government in any capacity. This decision to allow only one child to a couple in China is enforced by other practices. If a couple persists in having a second child, one of the parents is forced to buy all grain rations at twice regulation price for the next 7 years. The third child does not get the identity card that entitles him to food rations. But if the Communist Party discovers that a Chinese woman got pregnant without their permission, they force her to have an abortion. Jonathan Merksky, in an article for The Nation, wrote that women who got pregnant without permission have been kidnapped on Communist Party orders and forced to have an abortion, even if she was in the 3rd trimester of her pregnancy. This one-child per family concept poses another problem. What does the Communist Party do if the woman gives birth to twins? That question was answered by an American who visited Red China.